My name is Charlayne Woodard. I'm an actor and a playwright. And today, I get to talk to Micki Grant. Micki Grant is an actor, a playwright, a librettist, a composer, a musician, a singer. Micki Grant is a trailblazer. She was the first woman to win a Grammy for the book and lyrics of a Broadway musical. And her collaborator, Vinette Carroll, was the first African-American woman director on Broadway. I mean, they were badasses. My very first professional play was the bus and truck tour of Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, Micki's award-winning Broadway music, where she informed me that the role I was playing is the role she created for herself. And at that moment, I thought, an actress who writes, that's power. We have to know whose shoulders we stand on. That there have been people who really kicked in doors and made a way for all of us to come marching through. And Micki Grant is one of those people.
Well, look who's here. Micki, you look like a queen. Look at you. You look like a princess.
Oh, thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So glad you could come.
Yes. Look at this, a wall of some of the plays that you have written, and then, of course, those you acted in.
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
You've got that dual thing going on.
And Lizanne. And of course,
working.
That goes on and on. It keeps working.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And I remember there's a song that closes the first act. And this woman is singing something about, if I coulda
been what I could have been.
What I could have been.
I could have been something.
Come on.
With some luck to do what I wanted to, I would have been something.
That's right. I love that. All that humanity. Well, wasn't Cope just recently done here in
Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia.
Yeah, and they did very well, I understand. My cousin went to see it. He wrote me, I'm glad I went.
Yeah, because it still works.
Oh, yeah.
It still works.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's your wall of fame.
This is my infamous wall.
Yes. Look at you with everybody. Of course. Oh, you're with all the royalty.
But that was great times because it was a smaller group and a smaller family, so everybody knew what the other was doing and everybody was supporting each other.
That's right.
When the Negro Ensemble Company was at the St. Mark's Place, you just end up over there when you know the show was coming out. So you could go down the street and all sit together just to be together.
Yes, yes.
You know, even though you weren't going to see the show, you knew what time it was coming out.
Yeah.
And then there was a time when it was a community.
That's right. You know, it's great to see this because it shows everyone what's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what's possible. And you did all of this at a time when there were lots of hurdles.
Yeah.
Lots of hurdles to jump.
That's absolutely.
And you jumped them.
This is where it all happens. This is where I spend 80% of my time. I live in this room, really.
Oh, my goodness. Of course you do. Micki Grant.
Yeah. That's where
Look
that's Micki Grant Day, I think, in Mobile, Alabama. Micki Grant Day in Jersey. And
the Paul Robeson Award.
Yeah, some Actors Equity. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the key to Dade County.
The key to Dade County.
Yeah. I had a couple of keys.
Oh, my
And, of course, this is the
goodness.
prize here.
That's the big prize.
That's the Grammy.
That's the Grammy.
This is one of my first big hit.
Beautiful. This was your first play?
No, my first hit song.
Oh, Pink Shoelaces.
Yes. He wears tan shoes with pink shoelaces, a polka dot vest. Man, oh man, he wears tan shoes with pink shoelaces and a big Panama with a purple hat band. Booty-doo, boo, 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 boo. Became a big hit.
Oh, my goodness. The first big hit.
I was trying to write the craziest lyrics I could because someone had said to me, "Who do you think you are, Cole Porter?" So I said, "Well, if that's the case, they don't want me to be serious. I sat in the kitchen one day and I said, okay, what can I say that's ridiculous?
That's ridiculous. And that works.
And it became a big hit.
My goodness. Do lyrics just come to you like that? They just come to you, full blown.
It's like people sometimes have working hours.
Yes.
But I never know when something's going to strike me. It could be 3 a.m. If I can't sleep. In fact, I've done some of my best stuff when I couldn't sleep. I had to,
right. When it's nice and quiet.
Yeah.
And you're leaving yourself alone.
It's wonderful to work when you're feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
Not when you're sitting, now I must create something now because I'm sitting at this desk and I must create something by the time I'm to leave here at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good if you're, say, a journalist or something and you're used to turning out. But for the creative instinct, you never know.
And thank God they give us a little time to write these plays.
We're so similar.
Yes, we are. Though there is a difference. You collaborate, and I have to write by myself.
Yeah, in the music business, most of the time, it's a collaboration. Because very seldom, I guess I'm one of the few that do everything.
Right.
Even music and lyrics.
Right.
Most times you have a lyricist and you have a composer. Or you have a book writer. But I've always done my music and my lyrics.
Yes.
Because they come together.
It comes together.
Yeah.
Comes at the same time. Micki, I am honored to be with you in your home, in your creative space.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
This is me.
All this theater bling. Micki Grant, well, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your family.
Well, I guess I should begin by saying I love the story. Both my parents were migrants during the Great Migration from the South. My father came from Memphis to Chicago, and my mother came from Georgia by way of Alabama to Chicago, so they both met in Chicago. And they used to have, they tell me, house rent parties.
Oh.
And you would give a party and make a big pot of something and invite your friends, and maybe they pay $1 or $2, and they come in and have a good time on a Saturday night. And that's how they met at one of these parties where my dad was playing piano. And hence, here I am.
Yes.
I guess I was about maybe 8 years old. My sister must have been about 10. And we started taking piano lessons from the pianist of our church. I think she informed my mother not to waste the money on me because I wasn't learning. But my point is, doing those scales and doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And my mind was, I was hearing melodies already, but I couldn't play because I didn't know how to play. But I didn't like just doing the same thing. So to this day, I don't actually play piano.
So the piano was not your favorite instrument?
No, I loved it. I used to sit on the piano stool right beside my dad. And this is an interesting thing, too. My dad, as I said, didn't read music. But he would play and sing the blues. Hey, baby, where did you go last night? Boom, 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 boom. And so you would think,
Yeah.
So I would sit beside him. And when he'd get up, I'd be trying to play what he played. But then, Mrs. Lucille Davis came into the room one day when I was in about maybe 5th grade, and she was going to be giving violin lessons and forming an orchestra in our elementary school. And for those who didn't have a violin, she had violins that she would provide, 2 or 3 violins. And I decided, this is what I want. I want to play violin. And that's when I started to learn notes and E, G, B, D, F, and F, A, C, E, and all, where the notes.
Yes.
And then I saw what music was. And,
yes.
And we had cellos, we had violas, we had the violin. I was never going to become first violin. That was out of the question. But
always second violin?
Yeah, a third if that
So
was
I. Always second violin.
Right. See,
But I was in the orchestra. We were in the orchestra, Micki.
That's right. Well, anyway, we did not have a double bass in this orchestra. And Mrs. Davis, I guess she purchased a double bass of her own, and asked, is there anybody, I'll give lessons to whoever would learn to play bass because we need a bass. I was the only one whose hand I weighed about.
You were the tiniest thing in the room, and you were playing the biggest instrument.
My mother almost fainted. What? You what? But after I got involved in it, it ended up with my parents actually purchasing a bass for me. They couldn't believe they were buying this, you know.
So you were a pretty musical kid.
Yeah.
Pretty musical. So where did your greatest influences come from in the beginning?
I would have to say, started with my dad and my mom, because both of them realized I had a particular talent, and I'm grateful for that, that they saw that so they didn't steer me away from it.
Right.
When I was about 8 years old, we had a community center, and it was just a couple of blocks from our house. So after school, most of us went to this community center, especially if your parents worked or something, and that's where you would spend they had dance classes there and different activities for after school. And there was a class called the dramatic class taught by a very dramatic woman. She did a play for the young people, and she cast me as a spirit of spring. And the spirit of spring went around with this little wand and touched the daisies and touched the roses and and they all sprung to life because the spirit of spring had touched them. And I was smitten, you know. And actually, I had my first taste of divahood. And I learned from that never to be a diva after that. Because I got fired.
Why?
At 8 years old, I was fired because I had become the star. So after 2 days of having me fired and feeling what it felt like, I got the part back.
She brought you back.
But from that day to this, I have never played. And then you can ask anybody ever. I, ask for what's due me.
Right.
But,
But you just stay in the moment, nothing more.
But anyway, I started taking actual private lessons. And so I was going, roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll. This little kid was learning, this is what I was learning.
She threw you right into the sea.
Right.
There it is.
I've never forgotten. That's one of my first. To this day, that's what I remember. Roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll.
Micki, what about the first show that you had produced in New York?
Oh.
What did it entail? I mean, what did it take for you to have that first play produced?
Well, it took my good fortune of having the collaboration of working down at the Urban Arts School. It had been developed by a very dynamic director, Vinette Carroll.
Vinette Carroll.
We met during the time of the Vietnam War, and a lot of protests were going on. And she was planning on doing a production of Irwin Shaw's Bury the Dead, where young men who were killed refused to lie down in the graves. They kept getting up and refusing to be buried. But she wanted to do it as a musical. It was a musical out of something that, Vinette Carroll's mind worked that way. She was looking for someone to do music for this piece that everyone thought could not be done as a musical. Gloria Van Scott, with whom I had done my very first show in New York, was Fly Blackbird, and become friends. And she was working with Vinette at the Urban Arts School, which Vinette had founded. And she said, well, you should hear some of Micki Grant's work, some of her songs. Because at the time I was playing my guitar and doing protest songs, but folk. And she said, Micki Grant is an actress. She said, yes, but she writes songs too. And I went down and took my guitar and played a couple of songs for Vinette, which one was called Step Lively Boy, which ultimately became the name of the show. So as I started to add songs, one night I get a call and they tell me to come down to rehearsal. And the musical director, he sees me come in, he says, you better sit down. I think you better sit down. And Vinette walks in and says, we want you in the show. She says, nobody sings your songs the way you do. If you know Vanette Carroll,
Oh,
she had
yes.
this great
Yes, indeed.
sound, this great voice.
Yes, she did.
Nobody sings.
She could change your life.
That's absolutely.
Very powerful woman.
Yeah, she was a singular.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that was the beginning. That's how it began.
How much did the turbulence of the 60s and the 70s influence your work?
Well, yes, it started me realizing that I could write and talk about things that I cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be personal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the protests and you had the war. So all of those times were times to say something.
That's right.
And this is where I chose to say it. Even when I did Step Lively Boy, which I said became the title song of the show. When I went in to talk, she didn't know I wrote songs, and I ended up with this song that I sang for her. You know, war is just a way of life, and someone's got to do it. It's good to know a fine young man like you is seeing to it. So, step lively, boy. Don't let yourself be cowed. Die like a hero, make a country proud. Before you left, your daddy said he'd fought in World War II. And what was good enough for him was good enough for you. You asked him what his war was for, and he was clear on it. Then you asked him what your war was for, and he stammered quite a bit. But step lively, boy. Questions aren't allowed. Die like a hero, make your daddy proud. And it goes all the way through.
Oh, my goodness.
At the end, the guy gets killed and said, the things you'll never know, like having kids or turning 21. You know, you never know what it feels like to turn 21. But step lively, boy, step right up and get your shroud. Die like a hero, make everybody proud. And Vanette took that thing, and they sang it through the show like a dirge. That lively boy, where I could. And then when she decided, and when you talk about things that surprise you, in her mind she decided to make it the curtain call number. But she turned it all around into it. Step lively, boy, and the whole cast comes out. And at the very end, die like a hero, make your country proud. Just proud. And the audience just went.
Oh, yeah. How did you balance being an actor and creating plays with music? How did you balance that?
Being an actor, you knew what an actor could do and deliver. Even when you're writing for that. You know?
Yeah.
And you're hearing the way it's gonna, or should sound, and you know?
So your acting influences how you write.
I very seldom, I don't do a lot of rewrites.
You don't do a lot of rewrites?
No. Usually when I hear it, it's even my music. I very seldom go rewrite a melody, anything. It all sort of like comes together. I hear it, the sound, I hear it.
So it doesn't matter, it's not like I have to have it silent and there can't be television, there can't be music. It's just, you're in that world and then things come to you.
But you have to be free of encumbrances, you know, so that it can flow.
Yes,
Just where your creativity lies. If you just let your mind, there's a song I wrote. Just let your mind go wherever it wants to go, and you can believe the most impossible things. That's from our show, Alice. Impossible things are possible things, if only in your own mind. Just let your mind soar above the 90th floor, and you can believe the most impossible things.
Micki, I love it when you just break into song like that. I love it. And then what do you do when it just comes to you? Do you write it out on paper and pencil? How do you capture it?
The big yellow pad was always the great thing to have around, you know.
Big yellow
and I still have them around. And I used to keep a tape recorder by the bed because, as I said, I had no particular time when things came to my mind. If I'm tossing and turning all night because I can't get something out of my mind, then I have to get them deal with it. Because chances are, if you get up the next morning, it's gone. And you knew it was there. I know I lost something I should have had. I lost something very good, and you keep going back trying to find it. So the thing is, if you have a tape recorder or something right there, and you just say those 2 lines in the tape recorder and go to sleep.
Capture it. Done.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a problem, what do you do? What do you do when you have a problem? Do you walk away from it for a week or so, or
I don't walk away from it, but I walk with it. I walk around with it. I may go to the store. I may just walk out down the street, go buy things, but I'm walking around with it.
Yes.
You know, and you either let it go or it happens.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just learned something today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because I tend to walk away from it. And now I see you walk with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what makes you decide to do a play or not to do a play? What helps you decide to do it? Or not do it?
Charlayne, if you look at my work, and I don't know when I determined this, but somewhere I did make that determination. And I think it happened because of Cope and all the information that was dispensed in Cope. Mm-hmm. Entertaining, but informative.
That's right.
That's a lot of our history.
Right.
In Cope. And sometimes people left, and it wasn't until they started thinking about what they actually learned. Mm-hmm. You know, you come out singing a song, and maybe all of a sudden you realize what that song actually said. Mm. You know?
When I did Cope, I thought that you wrote those songs for me. The songs that I sang. Uh-huh. It was so personal.
Because they were personal for me, and you were singing my stuff.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
It was so well received, and I was so gratified that I determined that I wanted to do more historical things. I wanted to do more that told our story. Right. In an entertaining way, so people are open to receive it. They don't even know they're really getting a history lesson. Yes. Until later. Mm-hmm. That's why I did Carver.
Mm-hmm. And that was, you wrote it for a children's theater. It was very important.
I wanted these children to get an idea. So you have to condense for the children's theater, and it's done at schools. It should be an hour, under an hour long.
So it fits into the period.
So what I did, I took his young, the young Carver, as he's being discovered and coming out of school. So his beginning days of learning about plants and all of that. At the very end, he's talking about all the different discoveries he's made, what the peanut can do, and it's almost like a rap. And I understand that when it was done, the children wanted to know where could they go and find this music. And it had never been published, but they wanted it. So it had done what it was supposed to do.
Yes, it did.
It had gotten interested in this historical person and what this person had done and all the things that he had invented from the lowly peanut. But to them, it was a rap song. But at the same time, they had gotten this history lesson.
Have you ever been surprised by something in your work?
Surprised?
Yes, like, wow, I had no idea, but there it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hear a response or laughter in certain places.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Human feeling,
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful
When
ballad.
computers have to tell us whom to love, I would always get a vocal response from the audience. Because that's that days when people were first coming out with this whole thing, go and check the computer, see who you love, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I said, what strange plasm we're made of when we have to ask computers whom to love.
Right.
And the response from the audience would actually be vocal. They would be saying, oh, so...
And you were so ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Because now people are making their connections through the computer.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't know when you're writing about how it's going to.
Right.
I used to stand in the back of the audience a lot just to get audience reactions.
Mm-hmm. And the good thing about what we do is as bizarre as it might seem, we could just try it out.
Uh-huh.
We could try it out tonight.
And that's the good thing about developing and working in that kind of situation.
Exactly. The audience is a part of that whole...
They tell you. That's part of your the development.
Of the process, exactly.
That's part of the process.
Exactly. What is the scariest thing about creating a new show?
I don't know. I guess the scariest thing is, will you get hurt? Will you get on?
Will it get on?
That's the scariest thing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know,
yes.
You do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And you want it out there.
Right.
And you're not even thinking about anybody's going to knock it, which they might.
Mm-hmm.
But that you don't put that in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Coke first opened in Washington at Ford's Theater.
Mm-hmm.
It had gone through hell, you know, to get there. And the cast didn't even seem as if they thought it was going to work. You know, I had never really done anything that major before, and here they were putting on this show and everything. Ford's Theater had been reopened, I think, for about 4 years. So that night, we're all sitting around at the producer's house waiting for the papers to come out. And they said, well, finally, Ford's Theater has the reviews were ecstatic. I started boo-hooing like a fool. I had never even thought about what the reviews were going to... I was just thinking about the work, just doing the work.
Right.
I hadn't even given it a thought. And they started reading this stuff. And I just started boo-hooing.
Yeah.
Because it just all poured out.
Right.
You know?
And that's a scary thing, that the success of our work has a lot to do with what someone writes about it.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yes, yes.
But sometimes they get it right.
Sometimes they get it right.
Sometimes they get it right, and when they do, you could just weep. You know?
The thing that hurts, though, which is very hard for me to talk about, is when you get panned for something that it wasn't yours, that you didn't do.
For what show did that happen for you?
It's So Nice to Be Civilized.
Uh-huh.
The show I did at the Amos Repertory Theater.
Amos, yes.
In fact, it raised all the money to go to Broadway from that show. It was a huge hit, but that show never saw Broadway. It was a totally different show. The leading character was not even in the Broadway show. I was practically kept out of the theater.
Oh,
something that would never happen to me today.
One of those things.
Yeah. But I got blasted for it. You see?
Right.
I should have taken my name off it.
That's right.
I should have taken
Because it
my
was
name
no
off
longer
the show.
your show.
Yeah. How can you, when the leading character is not even in the show? Gus was the leading character, and everything revolved around Gus. That character was not even in the show. So actually, I went back. It's published. But the version that's published by Samuel French is my original version.
There you go.
But I'm so happy that it's out there. It's published.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that It's So Nice to Be Civilized that the critics blasted here, because they never saw my show.
Right.
Civilized was going to be one of my favorites. There's a song in that show that I think is one of the best things I've ever written, called Like a Lady. And I wrote it because I used to pass this woman on the street who was homeless. You know, there are homeless people who can only go to the shelter at night, so you'll see them out during the day with all their things and whatever.
Yes.
But I used to see her. She'd be sitting in the doorway, right here on Broadway. And one day I passed her, and she was sitting there with a beer can, and her little finger was cocked like that. And I noticed this. And as I walked by, I just kept looking at her. And she looked at me as if to go, "So what are you looking at?"
That's right.
And I said, "This is not just any lady." In my mind, I said, "This lady came from someplace."
Mm-hmm.
So I gave her a life. And I wrote a song called Like a Lady, because she held this
Can of beer.
And I gave her the history of wanting to be a ballerina. When they cut the umbilical cord, the mother lay there in the charity ward, smiling at the new life that she couldn't afford, then paid with her own. Father unknown, the frail baby girl's fate was an orphanage home as a ward of the state, where she made up her mind at the young age of 8 that when she was grown, she'd be a lady. Growing up on a frame tall and lean, she moved with an infinite grace seldom seen, and all who observed her agreed it can mean a talent to dance. So she worked any hard job to pay for lessons designed for a life in ballet, determined that one day her grand releve would earn her the chance to be a lady. As time passed, she auditioned with dread, for with every smile came a shake of the head, and though she returned like a true thoroughbred, 'twas to no avail. So she danced at a topless go-go, 'cause young ballerinas might ease even so. But each night she let drunken customers know she wasn't for sale. Oh no, she was a lady. And then it goes on and on. But then now she stands 'neath the post office flag, the sum of her life in a worn shopping bag. And no one suspect that this withered old hag just turned 41. As with fingers arthritic and bent, she holds out a cup to the world's affluent, and whenever passers-by drop in a cent, she thanks everyone like a lady. So my friends, as you go through each day and the dregs of society clutter your way, remember that things may not be as they say, always what they seem. For the soul is not clothed in the clothes which we see, my friend, so just try and suppose that creature at whom you just turned up your nose still harbors the dream of a lady, a lady, a lady. But I gave her, she has this whole life. I've left out a lot
gave
of
her a
because
life.
I take you through every,
Yes.
that gets her that, where she's now this person you see standing out here with
Right.
an orange shopping bag, or you see sitting there with that can of
Right.
beer. She had
Right.
life.
People don't just choose that. Something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Micki. That's quite brilliant.
Mm-hmm. What would they have thought if they had actually seen what I wrote?
Right.
What would they have thought?
Right.
And you never get a chance to see that. Those are the things that hurt,
Yeah.
when you had nothing, whatever to do with it, but you get the blame for it.
Yeah, that's
That's
terrible.
I'll take the blame for what I did.
Mm-hmm. If you don't like it, fine. I like it.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. That goes with the territory.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what I tell everybody. If you want to be in this business, you got to learn to bounce like a ball.
That's right.
Here's the bounce back.
That's right.
So
what's the most rewarding thing about creating a new musical?
hearing it, especially if there are many voices involved, not just the soloist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And recently, the York
They did
special.
Cope.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Recently.
Well, the reception was so good for people who remember, for people who just heard about it, and for that cast who told me such amazing things about it, how it made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's rewarding.
Because it's a funny thing about Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. Everything that you say in that musical pertains to what's going on today. It's almost as
Amazing.
if
It's
nothing
amazing.
really has changed.
Mhm.
So we need to hear those songs again.
And I
That's the
think that's
thing
what
about that.
surprised people when they heard it.
Mm-hmm. Micki, you've been involved in a lot of firsts. I want to ask you, who is Peggy Nolan?
Well, when I knew her, she was working as a secretary in John Randolph's office on Another World. And in a matter of months, she had gone to law school and become a lawyer. And so she hung around that part for about 7 years.
7 years
Yeah.
on a soap opera.
And I understand that they had a big meeting one weekend to decide what to do with Peggy Nolan. And they sent her to Detroit to work the underprivileged there as an attorney. And I think she's still in Detroit.
Oh, I see. I want you to know, when you were on that show for all those years, 7 years, on a daytime soap, you were a star in our household. And those were the days when, if there was a Black person on the screen, everyone came running. And I think you were the first.
Well, the first under contract.
Under contract.
Yeah, there'd been people on, but none under contract, where you were a part of the cast, and when the cast name was run down every day, you were part of that cast. It was not written for a Black person in particular. And I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter how big the part is, give it your all, because you don't know what will happen as a result. It was the fact that I was going off and doing all these shows out of town. You did the show wherever you could. And when they called my agent to ask for me, and she said, well, she's out in Washington, D.C. doing something. Well, we want her for the show. Well, she can't sit around waiting for you to call.
Come on.
So, what if we offered her a contract? They hadn't offered Ruby Dee, they hadn't offered anything. You just waited to be called.
Yes, that's what happens when you make yourself undeniable.
Uh-huh. And when I left on my own. Mm-hmm. I left because it got to be, I was doing my own show. What was the choice, you know? Yeah, and then this way I could continue to write as well. But it was a wonderful experience.
And the character was so real.
Yeah.
So human, so believable.
People came to me during Cope. I asked to come backstage, and they would just, I never thought I'd get a chance to actually touch you.
Miss Peggy Nolan.
For real. But the point is, it let somebody else know it can happen.
Yes.
It can be done.
Yes.
And that was the wonderful thing about it.
The only thing really stopping us is our own minds.
I say, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's where your limitations are.
Right.
Nobody else can limit it. You limit yourself.
Absolutely. Are you working on anything now?
I think I am. I need to do this because I've been thinking about it for so long. I got this notion I want to do a show called Don't Stop the Music While I'm Still Dancing. And that's just been in my head for a long time. I got to finish that.
You do have to finish that.
Don't stop the music while I'm still dancing. Don't send the band away. Keep them tooting while I'm still executing my fabulous dip and sway. Don't clear the table while I'm still dining. Don't close the book on me. You know, that's where it's going. But that's the title, Don't Stop the Music, like you said, and in parentheses, while I'm still dancing.
Have you ever thought about teaching?
Yeah, and I think I do it without knowing it.
Oh, yes, you do. I've been in class all day.
Yes.
Micki, I tell you, you've had such an impact on my life.
Oh.
Absolutely. From that first time when we were in rehearsal and you told me that I was doing the role that you created for yourself, that stuck with me. That totally stuck with me. And I found myself wanting to change my career. And I said, well, I might have to write it so that they can believe I can do something other than sing.
See, you just been putting your footprints in my footprints.
That's what I've been doing. I say, we're standing. I'm standing on
I love it.
On your shoulders. We all are.
Yeah,
and I am so grateful to have come along when I came along because y'all did the hard work. B. Richards.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Yes. Yeah. I went to a screening and she said, all right, we have tossed the ball. Don't drop it.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And I said, oh, okay. I didn't, that was it.
I got it.
Okay. Those are our marching orders to keep moving, like you wrote, till I move on.
We pushed a long way from where we've been. But we gotta keep pushing.
Moving.
We gotta keep moving
till we move on in. That's right. That's right. Oh, Micki, thank you.